Good morning, everyone, and welcome to City Hall Council Chambers. We are here to discuss in a press conference to address the situation of the commercial traffic disruption at World Trade Bridge that has been occurring pretty often. But before we begin and discussing this issue, I would like to present those who are present with us this morning. We have, of course, our Mayor of the City of Laredo, the Honorable Dr. Victor D. Trevino, and his wife, Ms. Rosa Marquez de Trevino. Council member for District 5 and also our Mayor Pro Tem, the Honorable Ruben Gutierrez Jr. Council member for District 7, the Honorable Vanessa Perez. Our Mexican Consulate General in Laredo, Ambassador Juan Carlos Mendoza. Our Bridge System Director, Ms. Yvette Limon. Fire Department Chief Hurd. Police Department Chief Miguel Rodriguez, and our Traffic Department Interim Director, Mr. Robert Peña. For several days, the City of Laredo has been informing the community of the traffic delays that have been happening at World Trade Bridge due to Sistema Nacional de Aduanas de Mexico, or ANAM. That prompted a very important meeting over the weekend with the participation of our Mayor, Dr. Victor Trevino, Consul General de Mexico, Protection Port Director Alberto Flores, Secretaria de Relaciones Exteriores Alicia Bárcena y el representante del General Secretario de la Defensa Nacional, el General Ramiro Gómez Contreras. And to speak more about this meeting that happened over the weekend and what was discussed at this meeting is Mayor Dr. Victor Trevino. Please come on.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Dr. Victor Trevino, Mayor for the City of Laredo. Thank you, Bib, for being here today. One of my platforms was to keep the public informed and be transparent. Port of entry means that a large part of the economy is dependent on trade. So we need to meet these challenges head on and work with our Mexican counterparts because our success and failure is intertwined with theirs. Are not unique to Laredo. Constant communication with the border mayors, these challenges are impacting us as well, and them as well. However, because Laredo represents almost half of all the trade from Mexico, we're going to be taking the lead on how we handle some of these challenges. Several short-term and long-term proposals were made at our last meeting this past Saturday with the Mexican officials, and now we have follow-up meetings in the next 2 weeks in Tamaulipas. Now I'm here to inform the public of the progress that we have been making with our Mexican counterparts regarding challenges being encountered at their ports of entry. And the most recent meeting that we had with the Mexican Secretary of Foreign Relations, Alicia Bárcena, which is the counterpart of Secretary of State Antony Blinken. I do want to thank the Mexican consul here in Laredo, for the facilitation of this meeting and Customs and Border Patrol for their valuable input in this matter, so that we could share some of the local feedback and the proposed solutions. Now, in this past meeting, this was a very productive in addressing the challenges we're seeing in our nearshoring growth and bottlenecks at our ports of entry, primarily relating to the need for system modernization and security enhancements that impact all the ports of entry along the Mexican border. So again, this is not an issue unique only to Laredo. However, because Port Laredo encompasses two of the busiest commercial bridges in North America that span two Mexican states and two separate Mexican aduanas or customs, one of the requests and suggestions was to work together to synergize with our customs protocols that thread Port Laredo as part of the same region. Therefore, where there were made clear plans shared by the Mexican government that they are making in the investment of the two custom systems and the assignment of additional military personnel to the ports of entry that cover Port Laredo on the Mexican side. At the same time, on a separate track, safety comes first. This means that we need to protect our public and residents to ensure that the preservation of life and public safety is what guides our plans. Now, these are a series of initiatives and protocols that have been created and discussed with the city manager's office, the Emergency Operations Center, which includes fire, health, police, and other respective agencies during these bottlenecks. Additional contingency plans put forth by the City of Laredo Port of Entry Advisory Committee were also presented on the May 6th City Council meeting to propose further enhance these protocols. The current and primary mitigation that had been in place is to alert the public to the city's PIO and EOC, and depending on the congested routes, divert the commercial traffic lined at our bridges off our roads to their commercial yards or to truck stops after a system outage has been reported and has deemed consistent and with or without estimated time of getting back online. So communication is the key. Additional mitigations in this situation is that the mayor is authorized to declare a local state of emergency or disaster, which means control of ingress and egress if a disaster has occurred or there is a threat to life and safety, which means clearing the roads to the city-owned bridges of unsustainable commercial traffic, in addition to clearing commercial traffic that is trapping or blocking exit or access to residential areas, schools, or jobs. I want the public to know that as your mayor for the entire city, the safety of our residents is first. Regardless of where you live, will always come first, and what we're seeing now in other parts of Laredo is what residents around the Mines Road have been living with every day. And this has been happening for several years. Some of these issues were created by insufficient land planning in the past, but we do not have the ability to go to the past just to move forward. As we need to learn from our past, it's that time. We as a city back up these solutions with more infrastructure advocacy so we can give the residents of this area the quality of life they deserve. Because what impacts one part of Laredo impacts us all. Now, I know that the community in District 7 has been most impacted, and they have been doing their best to address these issues for years. But they're going to need full advocacy and cooperation of the city to succeed. So you're going to hear from Councilwoman Vanessa Perez, who has been working with these groups in her district to counter the impacts of this congestion, followed by the Chief of Police, which have been involved in managing these challenges and working together with police to clear the roads during the height of these bottlenecks. And with that in mind, thank you, and stand by. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The area, as the mayor mentioned, the area of World Trade Bridge belongs to District 7, and council member for that district, Vanessa Perez, has been an advocate for this issue and has been working with Mayor on this issue as well. So please help me welcome to the podium council member Vanessa Perez.
Good morning, everybody. Mayor, thank you so much for holding this conference today. I think it's very important for the city of Laredo to understand that this is not something that just started happening recently. I know that the lines are very visible to a lot of people passing into other districts, District 6, District 5. The lines are getting all the way over there on the loop more and more frequently. But as the mayor mentioned, these are the trucks that used to queue up on the Mines Road for decades. And on the Mines Road, we only have one way in and one way out. And so these trucks, right, imagine all those trucks blocking all the intersections for businesses and residential neighborhoods. You know, this is something that they had to deal with. We had to deal with out there in District 7 for many years. And this change that we implemented, where we decided that the queuing of the traffic would better be suited for the highways, which are actually devised to maintain, to carry this type of weight and traffic, is now spilling into other parts of town. And I hope that our partners at TxDOT and around the state and the country will see that we need help. You know, Laredo is underserved, economically disadvantaged in a lot of ways, but we're a thriving community that is trying our best to keep up with this nearshoring trend that's coming our way. We have all the protocols and capacity to handle this type of traffic and trade. It's just very difficult to manage, and that's what the mayor's talking about today, is how do we manage this type of volume of traffic when the system goes down? When the system is running, everything goes smoothly. You know, there may be delays, but we're not talking about you know, quality, like emergency situations where people can't get in and out of their homes. People can't, you know, we had a situation recently about a month ago, maybe a month and a half, where the system went down for overnight, and that really caused us to be proactive. I know that we have the Port of Entry Advisory Committee at the City of Laredo that we created, and we have all the industry leaders there that are, you know, taking their time out of their day on a volunteer basis to come to the City of Laredo and to talk about the issues affecting the port and try to help us come up with solutions. And one of the things that they came up with a couple, you know, weeks ago at the meeting during spring break, they took time out of their spring break to come in on that Wednesday and hash this out for us and give us some suggestions. Just the way we diverted traffic onto the trade corridor. I think people in Laredo need to understand that this is the #1 port in the country, and it's only going to grow. And so we are going to see a lot more growing pains, and we need to be ready. I-69, the loop, we need to start looking at that as the trade corridor. We need to start looking at the overpasses as for people trying to get into World Trade Bridge and go into Mexico. For many years, we use those as fast routes. However, if you get stuck because the system is down, it's not a fast route anymore. Now you're stuck. And now you're taking way longer to get home or to get where you wanted to go because it's an unreliable fast route. Okay, so the overpasses here in the trade corridor, it's risky. So my suggestion and my advice is just take the access roads, avoid the overpasses unless you know for sure that it's clear. Because once you get on, you don't know, sometimes you don't realize the line is. One of the big concerns for the Port of Entry committee members was the intersections, because once the intersection is blocked up, it creates a hazard for the trucks traveling on I-35 specifically, that they may not be able to stop in time and may rear end and cause a chain reaction of accidents. So the contingency plan says that once we know the system is down, to cut off the overpasses, have police, which have been amazing in this entire process. I would like to really recognize the efforts of our police department, because in the past years, we've seen more and more visibility on the Mines Road, and they are ready to go. As soon as the system goes down, they already kind of have their own, chief can talk about that, but they have their own internal plan that they do, which is amazing because they're out there quick. But I think the Port of Entry's suggestion is let's get them out there and let's start redirecting the traffic away from these overpasses to start going through the industrial park, through Killam, and start queuing up on the access road of I-35. So we'll be talking about that during City Council and see what City Council members agree or not on this idea that's presented. I know the mayor suggested having the trucks go to truck stops and things like that. So these are all viable options for us. One of the suggestions that my constituents frequently say is, why don't you just move all the traffic from World Trade to Columbia And, you know, without getting into the weeds, it's not that easy. And if it was, we would definitely do that right away. And they've said, well, why don't you designate one lane on Mines Road just for trucks or just for cars? And again, we can't, there's logistical reasons why we can't do those certain things. But it's important for the public to know that these conversations are taking place. The mayor, council members, our city management, our department heads, we talk about this all the time. So District 7, we hear you, and we're working on these issues. And City of Laredo, please bear with us, and we're going to try to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Because of this issue, like Councilmember and Mayor were discussing, the Laredo Police Department has implemented arrangements to manage this traffic on the U.S. side of the border for all commercial vehicles. And to talk more about this initiative is Chief of Police, Chief Miguel Rodriguez.
Good morning. First and foremost, Mayor, thank you for having this press conference. I know that it's something that is of utmost importance to the city, and I also want to thank our councilman and our councilwoman for being here today. It's something that, you know, we always, every time that this happens, you know, everybody engages in messages and trying to see how to mitigate the issues that we have. And I think it's very important that the community knows that, you know, you're not alone. Every time that this happens, you know, everybody engages. It's a great team, and I want to give a big thanks to our PIOs who, you know, immediately put out the message that, you know, this is happening in our city. Communication is key, and we're always going to say this, but we can always say it, but we have to do more. And we've had internal conversations in PD where, you know, we're talking about how can we do more in communication. And one of the things that we're talking about is an application. Another thing is in our Facebook to make sure that we make notifications available immediately. Also, the other thing that we're talking about is signage along the Loop 20 area and I-35 to make sure that as people are traveling through our roads, that they understand that, hey, you know what, the system is down, be prepared to stop, be prepared to use the access road. There's a lot of internal conversations in PD as to what we're doing to get better. Right now, we're able to contain every time that this happens. And because of that, we deploy upwards of about 12 to 15 officers every time that this happens. That it affects our operations, sometimes yes, it depends on the time. But we know that it is important for us to keep those access roads open, making sure that those intersections where if people are asking for help, that we're able to get to them, whether it's fire or PD, that we're able to get to them in as fast as we can, and that this situation doesn't put us in a bind. So. We're always looking forward to making sure that every time that this happens, how can we get better? Every time that we deploy, we reassess and we debrief and making sure that, hey, how can we do this better? So PD has always had an operational plan to deploy our officers when this happens. Of course, you know, as time goes by, we're the #1 Indian port in the world, so this is going to get bigger and bigger. So we have to be planning always for the future. And PD is always going to be there to making sure that every time that this happens, whether it's the line all the way to University Drive, which has happened just recently, to 135, which we want to make sure that we avoid the issues that we had back in the 90s, that we had a bunch of fatalities because of that issue. We want to avoid that too. But let me be very clear. There is the operation that we have. It calls for us to make sure that the traffic doesn't go past the Bucky Hudman road. So the international is where they're supposed to loop around, and if there's no more access to the overpass, they're supposed to keep on going along the access road, and then turn around until there is a space available for them to go into the overpass on Loop 20. It should not get past that. One of the things that are happening in PD is we're assigning our strategic community commander to make sure that every time that this happens, that they deploy our officers and they're aware that they're no longer going to be able to keep on going back to Shiloh and all the way to University. So I want to remind the public that will stop, and we're going to make sure that we reroute that traffic, that commercial traffic, away from that area, because that is that is the plan, and that is how the plan should work. So from here on, I'm saying it here that that traffic will no longer be going all the way to University Drive. We'll make sure that the public knows that, and we'll make sure that the public continues to be safe. And because we want the public to be safe, we want to avoid that from happening. So there's other things that are happening also on 35 that we're making sure that, you know, whenever there's people that are driving south on 35, that they want to get off on an access road, that they have that signage availability way before so that they can get off before they hit that line. So there's things that are happening, and we're going to make sure that we advise the public once it's implemented, and we're talking about it's going to take about maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get implemented, but it is already in motion, and we're going to make sure that we implement it as soon as possible, Mayor, and everybody here. But aside from that, PD is always working very hard to making sure that the public remains safe during these times, and we continue being in the conversations with our councilmen and councilwomen and our mayor and our management team to make sure that we continue looking forward, like you said, Mayor, not looking in the past, but, you know, moving forward. So thank you for being here today. Thank you again to the mayor and our councilmen and councilwomen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And of course, it is a collaboration and a team effort, like everyone's been saying. We can't do it without each other, and this is why we're having this press conference. And like Mayor had said earlier, the mayor will continue to stay in contact with the Mexican authorities regarding these events, and we'll be discussing the issue, like we mentioned, in the next city council meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your attention to this matter. Media, of course, you're more than welcome to get your interviews after the press conference, and this press conference has ended. Thank you so much.